Well, I'm so glad I'm able to share with you my interest in painting flowers, and especially dahlias. I love dahlias. And in 2011, I decided that I wanted to mainly focus on flowers rather than landscapes. Though I do go outdoors to paint landscapes, and I do little miniature landscapes. But in my studio, it's mainly what I call flower portraits. I'm not a botanical artist. That's a whole different thing. That would require doing scientific exact drawings, which I don't do. So I don't refer to these as botanicals. They're flowers. And I find dahlias very challenging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a progression of, whoops, wrong way, of what I do when I do a painting of a dahlia. I first set it up to get some special lighting by having it with a piece of black foam core on a table right by my east sliding door, so that I get that east light on one side. And that's what I do first. Then I go to my computer and I do some different fiddling around in Photoshop elements. Huh? Okay. Oh, well, let me move over here. So, and this is the reference photo that I'm going to use today. So I do some different manipulation on the computer. I make a lot of artistic decisions with Photoshop elements. And then it becomes my reference photo. Then I print it in grayscale. And I use this inexpensive little children's light board, battery operated, and I put my grayscale photograph on here and my tracing paper, and I'll show you the next step on here so that I can trace it out with tracing paper. Tracing paper. Then there's the tracing paper image. Then I use Serral transfer paper to transfer this tracing to my pastel board, right there. And I do that because on some of the dahlias, there's so many little teeny tiny petals, it's easier for me to get all of the details. I do not paint from real flowers very often because they wilt. And when I try to paint from life, well, the lighting in my studio changes a lot, and that makes a big difference. And so that is one reason why I like to use photographs. That's just what works for me. You know, everybody does things the best way they can do, and that's what I do. So anyway, I've gone from this tracing paper image to my pastel paper. I mainly use Sennelier Le Carte paper in the darkest color I can get. It depends on what size piece you buy. So either it's the dark gray or a dark blue. I also like to use Metientis Touch paper in black. I like using these dark backgrounds. I frequently, even for plein air, use dark boards. Things just kind of pop for me that way. And the other thing, I don't know how many of you wear trifocals, but I have found that when I'm on the computer trying to look up and see things, it makes my neck hurt. When I do this with the painting, the same thing. So I had computer glasses made, and they're based on the reading part of my trifocals. And so this helps me quite a bit to paint so that I am not getting all tense in my neck. I don't know how many of you have had that problem, but this is something that has really helped me. So I'm going to wear my computer glasses while I paint, and I'm going to try to, this way then I can get up close, and I'm using a regular camera tripod where I can use the crank to raise or lower this so that I could get up close to certain areas. The other thing about the dahlias when I paint them, I usually start with the bottom level of petals. And you can really see what I mean about the bottom levels. And I know someone's going to ask me, why do you do that? Well, especially for this reference photo, I want to try to really capture the values, the darks and the lights. So I'm going to start with the darker ones and then move forward. It's kind of like making a bed. You start with your mattress pad, and then your fitted sheet, and then your top sheet, and then your blanket, and then your bedspread. It's kind of that for me. And so once I start getting in my levels, then I may go back and forth to enhance things. But that's what works the best for me. Also, in order to be comfortable painting so that my shoulder isn't hurting from reaching, I sometimes turn my board lengthwise. So, you know, all of these different things that I do so that I can be successful painting. So I'm going to get started. Also, I brought a very limited palette. I tried to pick out paints that I thought would work the best with this painting. And I also brought this one set of Gallery semi-hard pastels. I really like these, and they're kind of in the same range. And so I'm going to try to accomplish what I want to do with the colors I have selected. And feel free to ask questions while I go, and let me get started. Like I said, there's a lot of detail. And I normally paint larger. Most of my flower paintings are at least 18 by 14. And it's a little bit easier to get the detail. But I didn't want to do something that big, and I was hoping to get done. So let me see what I can do. Let me put this the right glasses. And as I get started, as I get going, I'm going to use this, and I have to remember to use this, and hopefully you will get the gist of what this is for. And here I go. So let me see. I'm going to put in some. Oh, I need to stand up. I've already lost my way. Well, like I said, there is so much there. The other thing I sometimes do is put in certain colors first to kind of help me along. And right there's some darker areas. And I'm going to make this a little bit darker with some purples. And here we go. By the way, I use a variety of different brands of pastels. I like this Sennelier, the Schminke, Holbein, even Art Spectrum. They make some very nice pastels. Sharon put me onto those years ago. And it just kind of depends on what it is you're trying to achieve.
Judy, would you say you generally leave that lower level untouched as you go further into your painting
I try to do as much of it as I can first.
at the time?
Yes, it just depends how things take me. But I generally do the lower level. And it also depends on which way I have this facing. But that's what works for me. Now other times, if I'm in a rush to accomplish something, sometimes I'll just use the same color and go all the way around. But it's harder to achieve the values that I want to get. So I really try to be very organized about this. And there are some flowers that are much easier to do. You don't have so many levels. You know, like magnolias, gladiolas. You can do a lot more with them without having to worry about your you know, the levels and the tiers, so to speak. So that's kind of what I think about. Some of the things that I do with my computer manipulation is I sometimes do a distortion called twirl to kind of make things, you know, go like that or that a little bit. You can probably see some of that here. And I also like to crop and just do one part of a flower, like these two. I find that interesting and fun to do. So there's just, I don't know, there's just something about these dahlias. It's hard for me to explain, but that's what I do. Okay. Now this is more of that color. Yeah, it's a little harder when it's a smaller painting. Now, I sometimes paint wearing gloves. However, they don't always fit me very well. They're either too small or too big, as my hands are kind of in between. So I'm using finger cots. And I use some of that special lotion that we get at Artisans. Yeah, kind of, like I said, it's kind of hard to keep track of where you are when you're doing these things. Okay.
Judy, you mentioned music in the information that I
That's right.
read. And do you listen to music as you paint?
No.
No. Oh, how funny.
I know, that's funny. I always have TV on. But I know, but I do think of certain musical elements in terms of creating contrast. I think about loud and soft, you know, decrescendo, crescendo, things like that, which enhance the music that we play or listen to. And I do try to think about that, and I try to think about the movement of things. I also frequently name my paintings after musical terms. For instance, this painting over here, it's called Rhapsody. So when I first started doing the flowers, I named them Gladiola 1, Gladiola 2. I just didn't have any ideas. Have any of you had problems trying to figure out how to name your paintings? Oh yes. So it's taken me a while to get there. I even named one recently after a yoga chakra. And so I look up things about the paintings, their origin, or about the flowers, what their origin is, where they're from, what some of the other names are for them, things like that. I have a lot of lists of things that I have saved having to do with naming the flowers so that I can go back and use that again. It's, yeah, because I mean, we can't just name them Gladiola 1 all the time. But that's what I did in 2011 when I first started entering flower paintings in the national show. And all 3 of them got in, and one of them received an award. Oh my God. That was so exciting. So anyway, that's when I realized, well, so many people do landscapes. I'm gonna do the flowers. That's what I decided to do, and I enjoy it. I'd like to find more places to get my artwork out there for people to see. And I did enter some out-of-state shows recently. I decided to be adventurous and not be worried about how to ship things. And I gotta tell you, those airfloat boxes are awesome. And so if you ever want to know how to go about doing that, you go to the Airfloat website and look at those boxes and set up an account with FedEx, and away you go. So, and unfortunately, all of my unsold paintings came back. But in good shape, you know, because of those boxes. But at least I got them out there. And as a result of getting one of the paintings in the Degas show, they invited me to become a member, and I didn't have to be juried in. So I was very happy with that. So, and my sister and I went to New Orleans for that show. And boy, did I get worn out. Oh my God. So, just because I've had knee replacements doesn't mean I necessarily can walk a lot or get into buses easily. But I tried. My sister's here, she'll tell you it was tough, right? But we went. We wanted to do it. And I wanted to be there. So, anyway, I just keep it after this. So I'm starting to get more of my layers, and like I said, this is why I need the drawing. There's just so much detail, and it's so hard to keep up with the areas I'm in, and I'm kind of losing track, as I said. Losing track a little bit.
Do you always do the complete flower before you do a background?
For the most part. As I go, sometimes I do start the background, but I will tell you that on the light sides, where the areas are very light, I tend to try to do a darker background. Well, whatever color I choose for the background, I choose to emphasize the value of what's on each side so that there's a good balance, dark to light or light to dark. And I think that makes a big difference. And the other thing is, the other reason why I like to do this portrait type thing is I like to take advantage of the negative space of the backgrounds. And that's just, you know, kind of what has been working for me. So I'm starting to get some nice darks and lights going in here. And I can go back and emphasize some things a little bit later. I'm going to start working some more on some light areas. There's a very, wait a minute, that's not light enough. Let me try this. Here we go. So if you like flowers, want to give it a try, you can also go to the Albuquerque Botanical Gardens and sit there and do plein air painting or take photographs of the beautiful flowers. Also, at the Albuquerque Garden Center, you can go there to paint and or to photograph the flowers. It's a really cool place. And my plein air group, the Monday Painters, we've gone there a few times. And so that's pretty cool to be able to paint there. Here we go. So
how do you ship your airflow system?
it has special foam inside, and you do a cutout the size of your painting.
Now, how do you ship it?
FedEx.
FedEx.
You create an account with FedEx, and they'll even come and pick it up and deliver it. One of my paintings was very heavy, and I was very glad that they came to pick it up. So,
And do you have to put something on it that says fragile, this side up?
yes, but the boxes already kind of says some of those things, and it also says which way to ship. But I found out one time for UPS, doesn't matter how many fragile you write on there, they ship everything the same way. That's what I found out. But with FedEx, I think it's a little more controlled, but using those boxes, because of the foam system, I think that works pretty well. My painting came back from Louisiana, okay, and from Texas, and you can save them and reuse them. So that's very nice too. And you make sure that the shipper, the agent that takes in the paintings for the show, you indicate and give them a note or email them and let them know you want the box sent back even if the painting sells. So you just do that, and then you're in good shape.
Does the box ever get turned upside down where you have the pastel on the glass or on the...
Well, it maybe could. And I have always worried about dust on the glass. That's another reason why I didn't want to ship paintings too much. But you just have to just pound them and shake them off as best you can. Hope for the best. I would be careful about sending a matted painting, because I think there's more danger of dust getting on a mat if there's no control of what direction the painting is. That's why I always just entered paintings in New Mexico at first. So I think you just have to, take a chance and give it a try and see if there's something that interests you that you want to enter somewhere, and and just go for it. And ask other people. I got information from Catherine Irish. I mean, she sends paintings all over the place. And I asked her, well, how does that work? How do you do with that? And she told me that, you do the airfloat boxes.
What's the price range of the airfloat boxes?
I don't remember. But the price is worth it.
$30 to $40 is what I was just looking
Yeah, see, I don't remember, but the point is, I think it's worth it. because you want your painting to get to the show, and you want to have it come back if you want to reuse it. And so that's just, it's just, I think it's just the cost of doing business, or whatever it is you call what we do when we are entering shows. We want people to see our work, not just here in Albuquerque. And we got to get it there unless you want to drive hundreds of miles somewhere to deliver it. And that's your other option. So that worked very well for me for these paintings this fall that I sent. And like I said, they were kind of, one of them was really heavy, a really big box. But they came and picked it up for me. And so that's what's so nice about FedEx. And the other thing is, they keep sending me emails letting me know about any problems across the country that they're watching having to do with weather. So they let you know if there's a storm or something, so that you know if you're expecting a painting to come back, or if you want to ship a painting, you know that there's a storm in East Texas or wherever, and you get these emails. And I think that's wonderful. And you just, you know, I just had to stop being worried about it. And that's what I did. I started sending my paintings out. And it was nice to go to New Orleans. Of course, we won't stay in a hotel on Bourbon Street again. Had no idea what that was going to be like. And my sister said, "Didn't you know it's a party town?" I said, "I didn't really think about it." So we just got used to the trumpets and the tubas and all of the noise playing in the background. And we just had the TV on, and we watched the poor store owners cleaning up the mess every morning. But I got to tell you, we heard some great music. I saw a clarinet with gold keys as I was walking down the street. You know, I was a clarinet major. I saw this clarinet. And this lovely woman, you know, who has her own family band. Her husband plays the tuba, her 13-year-old plays the drums, and she sings beautifully. And I got to talking with her about her clarinet. She said people give her clarinets, you know, and it has gold keys, and it's a different brand than what I used to play. But we bought one of her recordings, and she also sings. Her voice is like Louis Armstrong. It's amazing. I'm serious. And she puts out a lot of CDs, and she has a couple of music degrees. And oh my God, I just was so taken with what she was doing with her music and her whole family. And
Judy, do you remember the name of that museum we went to? That fabulous museum. Was it modern art?
oh,
That was awesome.
I don't remember now.
Back to the painting.
I had contacted Alan Flatman. He's the president of the Degas Society. Wanted to know where to go, and he suggested that particular museum. He had some artwork in there, and I don't remember now, but it was near Magazine Street, and it was unbelievable, the artwork in there. And they had whole rooms devoted to different genres, or maybe African-American artists. There was a whole thing having to do with teacups and teapots. And you know, we did what we could do. I really wanted to go to the Mardi Gras Museum. They show you how they build all the floats and let you do some stuff. Didn't make it there. I tried, but didn't quite make it. But you know, there's too much to do in a place like that. But we did go on a food tour. That's what wore me out. It was longer than we had expected. It was way too much walking. Like I said, even though I've had knee replacements, I still have hip problems. And oh my gosh, I was always at the end of the line, wasn't I, Barb? Oh, yeah. and we tasted all this weird food. I'm not a foodie. My sister is, and I kind of put a few things into her bowl that I just wasn't sure I could handle eating, but it was pretty cool. But the music, oh wow. There was this one group, trumpet player, oh, he was so good.
The architecture there was just obvious.
Yes, that was what was interesting. Every single house or structure, they're just all a little different. Similar to what you see in the Old Town Plaza area here. It was really cool. But I did what I could do. Oh, and by the way, next time I travel, I'm taking a footstool with me. I could not get into the bed. It was the tallest bed I have ever experienced in a hotel. Oh my God, it was, they had to bring a footstool for me. It was kind of funny. But no one, most people are tall and they don't really understand what it's like. But my students always got a kick out of me being short. But, and I'm kind of used to it, but yeah, that bed, oh wow.
When you enter these different shows where you have to send your work, are you required to join their pastel
No.
society?
You pay a little bit more though for your entry fees, but it's not that much, maybe $10 more. You don't have to join. Now, if you enter a member show, you need to be a member. So you just have to read the prospectus. And that's all you have to do. And then it kind of tells you what you need to. What? What was that?
I said, what a novel idea. Read the
Well, I know. Yes. Oh, yes. One of these days, I may do a presentation about how to rename your images and how to go into Photoshop Elements and do your resizing and things like that.
You know, we have videos.
I know you
on our
do.
website.
I know you do.
We do
But
everything to make it easy for people.
no, I
to figure
know.
this out.
But sometimes some things just get missed a little bit. So, but what I know about learning as being a teacher, repetition is the mother of learning. So sometimes we just need to see these things a few times or hear these things. That's what I have learned after having been a teacher for 35 years. And I'll tell you, I do miss teaching sometimes. I miss the little kids. And I even did a little pastel class for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders at one of the schools I was teaching. And I gotta tell you, there was one little girl, all she wanted to do was rub the pastel dust in her hands. Oh my God. It was pretty cute. So, but they had seen my paintings and they had an after-school program and it was suggested that I do that class for them. I wasn't teaching drawing, I was just teaching exploration of pastels. And that was a lot of fun for me. And I don't know if those kids remember it or not. And I, wasn't at that school all the time. I mean, funding changed and they couldn't keep me there, doing technology, and I moved to a middle school. But, just do what you can do, So I was glad I learned computers. Gave me an opportunity to teach something else other than music when I got to a point when I just could not move a cart from room to room anymore, which is what I was doing when I was teaching music. So I just kept working on the computer stuff. I was so glad I did. So it made me feel proud, because at my age, we didn't have computers growing up. So I just kept working at it. And that's just what I had to do. I still have some time. So anyway, but yeah, if you read the prospectus, for these different shows, highlight the important areas after you print it, create a calendar where you're marking in all of the entry dates. for things that you're going to enter, and so that you're prepared, and put reminders on your computer calendar. Allow a few extra days to get your entries done. And if you can figure out how to do your own photography so that you can do it on your schedule, that's also very good. I figured out how to do it in my studio bedroom, setting part of it in my closet, you know, where I put the paintings, and then I have marks on the floor of where I put my lights, and, you know, close the curtains as best I can, and away I go. That way I have more flexibility of getting my paintings photographed in a timely way. And there are people in town who do a wonderful job on that, but it seems like I was just always getting so nervous and worried. What if I don't get it in time? What if I don't get it in time? You know, maybe I need to do it myself. So that's what I did. So anyway, starting to get some things going, but you can see how confusing it is with all these petals. But I think, you know, it's good to try and experiment and try to get into some other shows. Even if it's an online show, the Pastel Society of the West Coast, you become a member, they have member shows online all the time. And Richardson has some online shows. In fact, I recently entered their Still Life and Floral. I've been a finalist a couple of times in there, not always, but it's online, so I don't have to worry about sending something. And it just kind of gives you an idea of where you stand with your artwork if you're not sure if you're any good or not. You just enter things. That's what I did early on, and that it helped me. It made me know whether I was pursuing something worthwhile or not. And, you know, you just give it a try. And that's how, well, I'm starting to get more into the center of things. Like I said, it's hard to keep from being confused in terms of which petal I'm painting. I'm going to stand back a little bit. Well, I'm kind of getting there. Let me show this to you. Go this way. When you put that there, it turns into kind of like a grayscale. And this shows you if you're getting your lights and darks. Now, it's not, I don't have enough lights on this side yet, but I made this. I just used red cellophane gift wrap paper and taped it to a mat. The ones that you find that you can buy in the little viewfinder things, they're kind of small. But I wanted something bigger. The other way you can check your values is if you photograph your painting with your cell phone and go into an edit and put it into grayscale and look at it. And once you see the grayscale, then you can really see if you've got your darks and your lights that you really want to achieve with your painting. I do that quite a bit. And it's very easy to do. I'm sure most cell phones have that editing option. Oh, that's too white. So that's very helpful because you want to have your values. I think that's what makes things interesting. That's why I think about the some of the things about music, what makes it interesting. Even if you're just listening to a wonderful band playing the Stars and Stripes Forever, and it gets all of a sudden quiet, you hear the piccolos. And then you hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, with the trombones. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, that kind of contrast. And I think that's what we want to do. And when I played in the band, and my sister played also, we were in the marching band, we did all these things, and we really developed quite an interest in music. Our parents especially helped us to appreciate that, and You know, but I think if you think about it, it's good. And I know people who listen to music while they paint. I just watch TV. But I know that sounds kind of silly, considering I was a music major, but, you know, I'm afraid I would get too distracted otherwise. But, you know, those are just things that I think about as I'm painting. And there we go. All right. Now, let me do some of that. So once I get most of this stuff in, I'm going to go back and work more on the darks and the lights, and I need to do a little bit more blending. Have any of you used this this blender that comes from Pipe Insulation? Yes. For those of you who haven't explored other blenders, this is really quite cool, and you can buy it at the hardware store and just cut it up any way you want. And I sometimes use just a plain white hard eraser to kind of press in and blend things, something I learned from Paul Murray a long time ago. So anyway, we just have to keep trying different things, see what works for us. I did not do miniatures for Masterworks this year though, just too busy. And I had wrist surgery recently. I think I'm actually doing pretty good being able to paint since that, but I just didn't get the miniatures done. But that was the first show I ever got into. It's Masterworks miniatures, I think in 2007. Oh my God, I was so excited when they called and told me about that. I think I was screaming. They must have thought I was crazy. Well, I mean, you know, I just was so excited, and because they call you, and then to find out, oh my God, I got into Masterworks. Now my sister was not too pleased because I did a little portrait of her, and that got in, and she didn't think it looked like her, and I didn't tell her until after it got into the show. But I used it, you know, I used a photograph, and I did some special things to make it small enough. But
You didn't put it in the twist, though.
no, I didn't twirl that one. No, you know what? Doing those things for landscape reference photos, oh my God. You have no idea what kind of interesting landscapes or abstract things you can come up with when you do some of these things, Photoshop elements. You know what really got me going with that? Jeff Potter. Remember a number of years ago when his abstract group did a presentation here? And I remember him talking about using Photoshop elements to do some manipulation for abstract things, and then I started doing that. Oh my God. That was a breakthrough for me. So, and I really appreciated having learned about that. And because I wasn't doing very much. I don't do all the filters. I don't know how to do all that. I don't really care. I just do what I need to do. I love to do posterization and different things like that. But you just have to try these things and see what works for you, and just keep it going, and find some fun ways to enjoy your painting, and then you just stand back. And when I stand back, I put it up in the living room, I sit on the couch, walk away, come back, and I say, Judy, how'd you do that? Do any of you ever have that feeling? I hope you do. I'm always amazed. I just think, oh wow, that is so cool, that, to accomplish that. So, but standing far away is what's important. And then walk away. And then you got it. Then you can really see, and if you can set up your studio in such a way that you can stand far away, that's good. I can't quite do that in my area, but I move the painting around and I put it in different places and I look and see what I've got, and that's you know, that's just what we have to do. I need to put more orange. No, that's too light. Well, let me work some more on here. So, by the way, this particular painting, or reference photo, this area here is this painting over there. So, you know, where I just kind of cropped and just did.
Judy, is it from one of the Dahlia you have there? On
Yes.
display?
This dahlia. Yeah, see, it's got a little bit of the red tips. I'm thinking of growing dahlias. But you have to take them in for winter. They don't come back every year. The garden center is having their spring sale the end of April, and I'm thinking of buying some dahlias and planting them in my raised bed because I have not been happy with my vegetable gardening in the raised bed the last few years. So I'm thinking of growing some dahlias and see what happens, but then you got to bring them in and set them in a certain way where they're not going to get all rotted out. But it's just something I'm kind of thinking about. And but I have some daylilies and Asiatic lilies that I think are going to be coming up soon. And but there's just something about these flowers. It's hard to explain. But Nicholas, you've been doing some florals, haven't you?
I have,
Yeah. We took that same class from Voss,
that's right.
the calla lily class. Oh yes. It was pretty cool. So, and there are always calla lilies in the Mediterranean garden there at the biopark. So if you go into the Mediterranean building, you'll see some calla lilies. If you have a mind to want to paint them, you could get some photographs. You could even paint inside there if you could handle the humidity. So, you know, it's pretty cool. Okay, I'm starting to get there. But boy, it's I'm going to substitute, you know, some different colors here a little bit. Maybe try some of these purples for some of the mid-tones. And I have a darker purple that I can come in here, maybe a little bit. Now I also have all of my pastel boxes at home organized by value and color. And that also is very helpful, because then if you don't have the right color, you could pick a different color that's the same value. We once had someone come here to show us how to do that, and it's a task, but it's worthwhile. And I try to organize my plein air box the same way. That's very handy to do, and that's what I have for my home boxes. All right. Oh, I see some real dark areas. Let me see, right in here. Okay, and there. Okay. Oh, I'm going to do some of that there. Okay. I need to focus some more on some of these light petals. By the way, dahlias are known for these petals that just kind of, they're like little cups. And you can really see it on this one. it's not like I'm an expert on being able to achieve that when I paint, but it's something interesting to notice about how those flowers grow. And I found out some interesting things when I went to the New Mexico Dahlia Society show at the Garden Center back in September. I wanted to know how they decide which flowers are prize winners. And it has to do with the center of the flower. If it's already opening, it's not considered a prize winner. It needs to be more closed, more like these. That's what I found out. And those have some interesting names. I don't know if you remember, but I had a painting in our national show called Wildfire, which was yellow and red. You know what they named those? Mustard and ketchup. Really, there were several different ones in that show with that name, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that was kind of weird. But that's just how that particular grower or who developed that. That's what they named them. But I prefer what I came up with Wildfire. That's what I thought was the best way to do it. I also looked up several different. I Googled yellow and red dahlias just to get some ideas of how they were named. And
So Judy, since obviously you're not going to have time to finish this, I'm kind of curious because the lighting here in this facility is so different from the lighting you have at home. I'm seeing some beautiful colors you're getting here that are you going to be able to, how are you going to be able to adjust
well,
at home given the different lighting?
I use daylight lamps, 2 of them, but here I'm using these book lights. And so I could also set that up at home if I wanted to. But that's a good question because, like I was saying before, the colors of things, or the lighting changes so much when you're trying to paint a still life. It depends on how you have your space set up. So, but I'm getting pretty close. I'm going to keep moving. I want to try and get some more in these light areas because I had been talking about that, and I want to see how it shows up with my my red thing. And but like I said, if you would take photographs with your phone and go into the editing part of there and do a grayscale and really see how your paintings are measuring up in terms of your darks and lights, that's very simple to do. You don't have to drag out your fancy camera or anything and or print it. You just look on your phone and then you have an idea. And it would be very easy to do that. Okay. Wow. There's just a lot going on here. I have also experimented with lighting the flowers just from my regular table lamp. I have also, you know, done some side lighting and photographing some of the dahlias that way. And it's a whole different range of colors, but that works for me. It just, you know, I like to experiment. But I got the idea of what they call backlighting from an artist whose work I saw at Weems a few years ago. She's a watercolor artist. She had these beautiful flower portraits on a black background. And I asked her how she achieved it. She told me about using the east lighting. And then she painted her border watercolor paper in black acrylic. And I'm thinking, oh wow, I'm going to give that a try. And that's what I did. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask people in these shows, you know, how they do what they do. You know, if they don't want to tell you, they won't. But I think people appreciate somebody being interested in what they're doing. And you can just go from there. Let me see. I don't have enough medium things. Let me try this. There we go. All right. You can also find some very nice artificial flowers at Hobby Lobby. They have sales every once in a while. And at Michael's Arts and Crafts, and at Joann's. And you never know what you're going to come up with that you might want to use for a painting. And I have 2 huge containers full of silk flowers in my bedroom. I just have really gone crazy with this flower stuff. And I enjoy it. Do some more blending. See, now that's not looking too good, but getting there. Oh, let me do this.
Judy, when you position that picture on your board, did you take into account prior to doing that, like what would happen if it went into a frame?
Yes, I did indeed. I've got 1/4 of an inch there on the side of the leaf. And when I was tracing this, I did take that into account, and I made some adjustments. And I'll tell you, it takes some time getting something printed in grayscale to the size that you want. This turned out to be more of an 11 by 14, but I was able to make some adjustments when I was tracing it on here, and I wound up with a lot of negative space, which I'm happy. But it takes some time to get it all planned and to get it worked out. I spent a lot of time at the printer. I have finally mastered exactly how to do it and which printer I prefer to use for that, and whether to do black ink only or high quality grayscale. You just have to experiment. And but that's what gives me a good tracing. And I'm sure probably there's some people who think that I should be trying to paint more from life, but you know, I've tried some, but depends on my time frame and what's going on. But the last time I tried painting some iris from life, my sister Barbara's neighbor gave me a beautiful iris from his garden, and it just was wilting and wilting and wilting. But it made some interesting photographs too. And but it was a little tricky. So again, that's why I kind of have zeroed in on what works the best for me. And I think we all do that. The other thing I discovered with some reading, I think we all also discover what orientation works for us. Portrait or landscape. What size paintings we most often like to paint. And I know most all of mine are portrait orientation, and I mainly paint at 18 by 14 for the most part. That's just what I came up with that I like the best. Now, when I was early on doing the flowers, I tried to get as many pieces of paper out of one sheet of paper, and I was painting smaller because I didn't want to waste paper. And, well, you know, I'm sure many of you had that idea also, that feeling that you wanted to be careful about that. And so I was doing a lot of smaller things, 11 by 14s or 9 by 12s. So, and I had a hard time coming up with small paintings for the Miniatures and More show. That was pretty tough for me to paint dahlias with a 12 by 9. I didn't want to go much smaller or much bigger. And I was very excited to get into that show. And when I went to pick up my unsold paintings, and that show was here, Rita Butler, and I told her my name. She said, "Oh, you're the flower lady." I'm thinking, wow, you know, that's kind of interesting, you know, that she remembered me that way. Because, I mean, Voss was in the show. He does flowers. But anyway, it was just, you know, it was just, you know, a little different. Just a little different, but it was hard to do small. I did a lot of experimentation before I came up with what would work best for me to follow the guidelines for that show. I don't know if I'll get in this next time or not, but I did enter. And I'm glad that even though I had carpal tunnel surgery recently, I'm able to paint. So that makes me very happy. And to be able to do some of this. Now by the middle of the day, my wrist will be kind of burning a little bit, but you know, it's okay. Now my fingers are not numb and tingly, and I'm not dropping pastels like I was doing before the surgery. So I've definitely had a benefit. And if I do any more hand surgery, it'll be for my trigger finger, but that's not as big a deal. I think, you know, as we get older, things happen. But we have to enjoy our retirement and do what we enjoy doing, and that's what I do. And I know all of you do, or you wouldn't be here. Well, I'm getting there. Let me stand back a little bit. And squint. Kind of getting there. Let me see. Let's see what's happening here. Over here, I'm seeing some good values on the dark side. But over here, not enough. So, I have a plan. I'm going to see what happens if I do something like that. Oh, I'm right here. Let me look and see. A little better. Let me see if this color will do better. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, now.
We have about 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to stop, and if you have any questions, please feel free. And I want to let you know how happy I am that I was able to do this. So are there any questions? I think we've been through quite a bit.
How do you decide on your framing?
That is tough. It's easy when there's negative space around the outside. It's a little easier, you know, like for this one. This one was tricky, but this seemed like the best frame. I rarely go any larger than this width. Very rarely. Now for plein air, that's a whole different thing. And I very rarely do mats anymore. But, and for some reason, gold type frames seem to work the best for my paintings. for the most part. There's one that I framed in something darker, but it was a different kind of a thing.
Have you tried black?
Black, no. You think black would be good?
Well, I would like to see them in black just to see what they look like.
Oh, okay. That's a thought.